What's up, everybody? I am here. I'm back in the offices today because it's not really a great day out in Atlanta. It's not raining or anything, but I just decided to come in here. A couple of reasons. One, the internet is better in here, and I think we get a little better video quality. But today, I wanted to talk to you about change management. Really, just the principles of change management, and I think those are really simple. And so I won't be before you long, but I think there's three things that you have to have in place in order for change management to go well. And here's the three things that I think is really critical. And it's like a three-legged chair, right? You can't try to do it on two-thirds of a leg. You need all three in order to make it beneficial. We've been talking about change management throughout the time this week. So I want to give you some principles or some practical things of change management. Here are the three. Number one, change management. We got to make sure that you have support. You have support. I think that's one of the critical things, when you talk about change management, because no matter what you do, that you're going to need support. You're going to need that encouragement. You're going to need someone that's around, someone to talk to, someone to process that with you, and someone that is a safe space. We've been talking a lot about safe spaces, a lot about trying, whether it's your spouse or a loved one, to someone that's going to lead you to the cross, someone who's going to lead you back to Jesus. Because here's the truth: people do not like change, right? Because change brings about kind of this fear. It's the fear of the unknown. There's uncertainty. There's all these things that take place when it comes to change. So I think it's really important that we recognize that don't do it alone. Have someone to support you when it comes to change. The second thing is communication. When we have change management, you need to make sure that you are communicating early and often. You are communicating to anybody and to everybody it affects. And that communication is not just communication to other people, it's also communicating to yourself, because it is important that you create a plan. If you're like me, that is a discipline, because I am like, let's build this thing as we go and not trying to like create a plan, because that's just time consuming and I'd rather just go through it and get it done. But change management affects us in so many ways. When things are changing, you are impacted in a way that you don't even know that's on you, right? And so many times people have, they just have this mentality of getting it done, and you're getting it done, but you miss it, right? And so I just really think it's important that when we're talking about change, it is important that you are, that you communicate both to yourself, but it's also communicating to others. What does that mean to me, communicate to others? Like those people that it will affect, regardless if you think that you didn't think they were going to mind or all of that, any of the reasons why we didn't feel, still communicate. I have always learned communication is always better than under communication. I would rather someone tell me, Dottie, you've told me that already, than the Hottie, you forgot to tell me that, right? And so what you need to do is write down a list of everybody that it's affecting. So like, for instance, at Boulevard, we're going to be building a studio, so that we can pump out more videos and more quality videos. And even on this, like just having some quality stuff. And so like, I need to go through all the different people, right? Every single person is going to affect, and talk to them, communicate with them. When things change, communicate to them again, right? Not just assuming, right? Like responding through voice, through email, through all those things. Like we got to make sure that we are over communicating. Communication plays a crucial role in change management, right? And the more that we're able to do it with consistency, the more that we're able to do it with transparency and vulnerability, I think it is important. Oftentimes, I've seen people, and I've had to tell a couple of people this. Oftentimes, we treat communication on only a need to know basis, and I'm one of those people. What that has done, it has gotten me into a lot of trouble, because I think that what people don't want to know all the information, because oftentimes I'm the type of person, just give me the big picture And I'm going to double click if I need you to go into more details, because sometimes when people go into details, I get lost in the weeds. However, I've learned that people like are not always like me, right? And so I'll communicate in a way that I like to receive information, thinking that people will double click. That is just not a good way of communicating. The best way of communicating is just being able to be with clarity, right? You always want to provide clarity, because when you get clarity, you're able to create movement, right? Because clarity is so important. When we clarify the win, one of the things that I constantly tell people, I recognize that in sports if you won or lost. Why? Because of the clarity. You know what play you're going to run. Why? Because of the clarity that you have in huddles, the clarity that you have in the scoreboard. That clarity is so important. So when it comes to change management, make sure that you are sitting down. If you don't, if you don't have any tools, look at Tuesday's video when I talked about 20 expectations, how to unearth expectations in you, or how to unearth expectations in others. The other thing that you want to do is that you want to write down clear goals. Like, in the midst of this change, what is the new normal? What is the clear goal that we're trying to have? I think that that is a critical thing for us to have. And a great formula that you can use is by using kind of a three-part: the who, the what, and then the why, right? The who, the Heidi Lewis, want to or desire to, you know, do what specifically I want, in this next season I want to blank, and then so that blank. So who, what, by when. I want to what, so that what. And then you're asking, if you put those three things: who's responsible, what we're responsible for, and by when, you will do well. So communicate often, communicate clearly. It is important that you are addressing anybody that it affects. Finally, planning. Whenever you make a plan, you want to make sure your plan is easy to understand, right? It's easy to take a next step. It's obvious in terms of where we're trying to go. It's obvious in terms of like the next steps and where we're going. And then strategic, right? Like, we're clearly going in a direction that it makes sense of where we're going. So easy, obvious, and strategic. When you create a plan, make sure you are always doing that. Make sure that the left hand knows what the right hand is doing, that you're not kind of creating double think. You're not going different ways. I think that is so important. And oftentimes when we're talking about creating something that's easy, obvious, and strategic, I just want to make sure that I'm just saying, like, all right, let's create in this planning something that's easy, obvious, and strategic. Let's set a date every Sunday. Let's sit down. I'm talking to my family. I'm talking to my spouse, to Angie, and I'm saying, all right, Angie, what does this week look like? Right. And so then we'll, like, for instance, we'll take 1 week and we'll say, hey, let's do our dinners or our meals. A lot of times our meals are lunch and then dinner, now, especially in the summer. So we'll say lunch and dinner. Let's plan those out. All right. So that's number one, planning. The second thing is, let's make a grocery list as we're planning. That's his second. That's obvious. Then after that, let's go and whether he Instacarting or go get the groceries from that. Easy, obvious, and strategic. Those are 3 steps. So now we got all the meals planned. And then we start thinking about, okay, when are we going to cook these plans or cook these meals, right? And then you begin to do that. Easy, obvious, strategic, right? Next steps. And so now we don't have to think about that when throughout the rest of the week, right? And so I just really want to just emphasize that, like, that's a change that's coming, the change of a week. Are there any changes this week? The other piece about that is, like, we're going into the fall. We just started school, right? And so one of the things that we say is don't do lunch meals, right? Because lunchtime right now, most of the kids are gone, right? During the summer, they were there. During the fall, they're not, or during the school year. So that's a change. And, like, little simple changes like that will go a long way. And just make sure that you're having times, that you're planning those times every season, every new season, kids coming back home from school, kids going to school. right? Just what are those expectations, and then create a plan that's easy, obvious, and strategic to execute, right? You don't want to get super complicated, because if you get super complicated, you'll forget. And if you forget, that just breeds frustration, right? Clarity, clarity, and clarity. Clarify. So that is really it for today. I just wanted to just jump on real quick. Got some other meetings to go to, but I just want to let you know, when it talks about change management, just make sure that you have support. Make sure that you're communicating early and often, and then also make sure that your plans, that you're planning regularly, and when you make those plans, that they're easy to follow, they're obvious, and they're strategic. All right, you guys, grace and peace.